Good morning and welcome to Worldwide Wisdom. We're getting ready for Rosh Hashanah in just 2 weeks' time. Rosh Hashanah is the new year. You know what happens in Rosh Hashanah? Rosh Hashanah has decided how much money you're going to earn this year. Rosh Hashanah is the financial verdict of how much exactly you are going to be earning in the next 12 months. Isn't that amazing? I mean, you think you'd want to show up to this hearing, right? You'd think you'd want to appeal your case and not just be lounging on a beach somewhere. This is a very important day. On this day, it's decided who shall live and who shall die, who shall prosper and who shall suffer, who by strangulation and who by lapidation. I'm not quite sure what lapidation is, but it doesn't sound pretty. Lapidated. Okay, it doesn't sound right. But can you imagine who's going to strike it rich and who's going to hit rock bottom? This is all determined in Rosh Hashanah. It's a very important day. Rosh Hashanah is the day when it's all written down, and on Yom Kippur it is sealed. Rosh Hashanah yikasevun, uvayom tzayim Kippur yichasemun. On Rosh Hashanah it's written, and on Yom Kippur it is sealed. This is very, very, very important. I remember my father was here on Rosh Hashanah 2 years ago, October 2023. My father was here. We came for Sukkot that year. Simchas Torah. But I remember my father telling me that he calculated that this year was going to be a very messed up year. That year, October 2023.
Before October 7th?
Yeah. And I said to him, I was like, come on, give me a break. He figured it out. And then he was here on October 7th, which was 3 weeks later. Can you imagine what could have happened? I mean, how much worse October 7th could have been? Can you imagine how much better life would have been without October 7th? There's a beautiful story of the Baal Shem Tov. In Mezhibush, there was a story of the Baal Shem Tov's shul, and everybody was praying, and the Baal Shem Tov was very, very, very serious that year. And everybody was sensed the seriousness of the Baal Shem Tov, so they all wanted to pray even harder because they realized that something was amiss, something was wrong. At one point, there was a young shepherd boy, a literate shepherd, who had come in for the holiday, and he was also inspired. So what he do? He called out at the top of his lungs, "Kukuriku, kukuriku." That's all he knew, right? Of course, the worshippers wanted to throw him out of the shul, but the Baal Shem Tov said, "Leave him be," because he cried from the depths of his being. That's all that he knows. He's not familiar. He doesn't know how to read Hebrew. He doesn't know how to daven. But that was to him the most passionate cry out to his maker. And in fact, the decree that I've been trying to avert in heaven, obviously the Baal Shem Tov was able to see something. He says none of us were able to avert the decree, but it was only this young boy with his heartfelt cry who was able to actually banish and avert the decree. Can you imagine what kind of decree might have been talked about? October 7th was a decree that happened on Rosh Hashanah 2 years ago. But apparently it was decreed on Rosh Hashanah. Who shall live and who shall die? Hindsight is 20/20 vision. It would have been lovely to have been a little more focused that day on Rosh Hashanah, a lot more focused. Can you imagine what might have happened if the Israeli government would have responded to the onlookers, to the tatzpaniot, the women soldiers who were warning them of increased activity on the other side of the Gaza wall? Can you imagine if the Israeli army would have been ready? Can you imagine if they would have thwarted the attack? But alas, it wasn't meant to be. And we're still fighting this war on all fronts, right? We're still fighting this war on all fronts. It's absolutely overwhelming, and Rosh Hashanah is the day to determine, and which is why it's very interesting that the Code of Jewish Law, the Shulchan Aruch, of the Alter Rebbe Shulchan Aruch tells us that there are certain customs that we do in preparation for Rosh Hashanah in order to confuse the Satan. Who is Satan? In non-Jewish theology, Satan is some sort of an evil entity who is the opposite of holiness, opposite of God. But we Jews don't believe in such a concept of Satan. We don't believe that Satan is somehow a private entity. He's a self-employed. We don't believe that he's self-employed, right? We do believe that he is a private contractor He's actually a salaried employee of God Almighty. What? He's a holy servant of God. He has 3 jobs, actually. Three jobs. Yeah. Yep, he's got 3 jobs. His first job is to be the Yetzer Hara, to be the evil inclination. First, he's got to lead you astray. Then, once he led you astray, he turns into the Satan, the prosecutor, to say, look what he did. And finally, after he successfully prosecutes, seduces, then prosecutes, finally he becomes the executioner, the Malach HaMoves, the angel of death. He's got 3 roles, this particular salaried employee. That's why he makes the big bucks. Yeah, that's why he makes the big bucks, this guy, right? So there's certain things that the Code of Jewish Law says that we do in order to confuse the Satan. What are these things? For example, Rosh Hashanah is on Rosh Chodesh, is on the beginning of the month of Tishrei. But we make no mention of the fact, on Rosh Hashanah, we don't make mention of the fact that today is Rosh Chodesh like we would on a regular Rosh Chodesh. 11 months of the year, we have a special Musaf prayer acknowledging the Rosh Chodesh. We're not making mention of that. We don't read the special maftir on every Rosh Chodesh. We read a special maftir in the Torah to mention the Rosh Chodesh. We don't do that on Rosh Hashanah, right? We're not mentioning the Rosh Chodesh. Why not? Because we don't want to confuse, because we do want to confuse the Satan, so that he doesn't know when Rosh Hashanah is. Another thing that we don't do is the Shabbos before the new month. Shabbos for the new month is Shabbos Mevorchim. The Shabbos that blesses the new month, right? We hold up the Torah and we bless the new month. Something that we don't do on the first month of the year, on the month of Tishrei, on the Shabbos before, which is in 2 weeks' time. We will not be blessing the Shabbos publicly in shul. Why? Because Alter Rebbe says in the Code of Jewish Law, because we do want to confuse the Satan. Another thing that we do is that we blow the shofar the whole month of Elul. This whole month of Elul is in order that the Satan should not know when is Rosh Hashanah. We want to confuse him. He's like, oh, they're blowing shofar. So he sort of like loses his enthusiasm because he sees us doing it every day. So he gets all confused, right? And finally, another thing that we do in order to confuse the Satan is that we don't blow the shofar on Erev Rosh Hashanah. For 28 days before Rosh Hashanah, we blow the shofar, but the day before, on the 29th of Elul, then we don't blow the shofar on the day before Rosh Hashanah. Again, in order to confuse the Satan, so that he should think that it's over, because we just blew for 28 days. Then we don't blow, so he figures it's over. So he goes to Bahamas. It's over, right? He goes to look for his post-Rosh Hashanah vacation. He thinks he missed it. That's what it says in the Code of Jewish Law. Now, the obvious question is asked. You know that the Satan is not just some doofus. The Satan is a holy angel of God. He also went to yeshiva. What do you think? Right?
An expert.
You think he doesn't have access to a Jewish calendar? Chabad Apam Jigon sends Jewish calendars to everybody. Right? He probably gets a Chabad Apam Jigon's calendar. Right?
What kind of donations?
Yeah, he's probably on our mailing list, right? So he lives in the world of truth. He's an Elam HaEmes. This world is the world of falsehood, Elam HaSheker. But he lives in Elam HaEmes, in the world of truth. Is it in fact possible to confuse the Satan because of these simplistic acts that we didn't mention Rosh Chodesh or Rosh Hashanah, or we didn't bless the Shabbos, the Shabbos before Rosh Chodesh, or because we blew the shofar for 28 days, or because we didn't blow the shofar on the 29th day? I mean, seriously, this is going to confuse him. Besides, is he so stupid that he doesn't remember it for the past 3,000 years? You think he didn't get the pattern? You think he didn't get wind of the whole plan after 3,000 years? We'll be doing the same thing, right? Maybe 2,000 years. You'd think after a while, he'd pick up on the strategy here, right? So what's going on?
Slow learner.
Yeah, maybe he's a very slow learner. I'm going to tell you, the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, is a lot more cunning than meets the eye. We learned in Ayam Yom that, I think it's in the month of Sivan, 3rd of Sivan, it says that the Yetzer Hara, the evil inclination, is very shrewd. I used to think it says over there in Ayam Yom that the evil inclination is only trying to convince you to do a sin, but really sometimes the evil inclination will dress up in the clothing of a chassid, and he will try to convince you to study Torah, to give tzedakah, to do a mitzvah, as long as he takes you away from what you should be doing right now. The guy is a lot smarter than you think, and sometimes he's a lot smarter than us, right? So how, pray tell, are we seriously planning on thwarting his plans by simply confusing his calendar with these seemingly shallow, superficial acts? Good question. The Rebbe explains, based on a piece of Talmud in Rosh Hashanah 16a, Talmud Rosh Hashanah 16a. There it says that the Gemara says that in the name of Rabbi Yitzchak, why is it that we blow the shofar on Rosh Hashanah? Why do we blow the tekiah and the trua sitting, and then we blow the tekiah and the trua standing? You know, by the way, you're not supposed to stand every time you blow the shofar. There's shofar blows that happen standing and shofar blows that happen sitting. For example, the shofar blows that happen while we're doing the repetition of the Amidah, the silent Amidah, those are the standing ones. And the ones before the Amidah on Rosh Hashanah, those are the standing ones. But the ones that happen during the repetition of the Amidah, those are sitting ones. It's called Miyushav. Well, now you know. That's why we're learning, Toby. This is exactly what we're learning, right? There's the standing and the sitting. There's always one guy, Toby, in shul that stands up because he's inspired. And everybody else, they don't know what's going on. So they stand up too, right? You gotta be careful, right? So if you want, Toby, I could go through with you and show you which ones are which. So why he says the Talmud, the Rebbe quotes this Talmud. Why does it say, why is it that some shofar blast we do standing and some shofar blast we do sitting? Answers the Gemara, in order to confuse the Satan. That's what the Gemara says. Rashi explains, what does it mean to confuse the Satan? Rashi is critically important for us to interpret Torah. Rashi is the super commentary of Torah, of Talmud. It's very, very important. You can't understand any part of Torah without Rashi. So Rashi explains to us, what does it mean that we want to confuse the Satan? We want to confuse him that he shouldn't satanize. What does it mean, satanize? Is that a verb in English? No. Is Satan a verb?
Satanize, he's satanized.
Yeah?
Satan's a noun.
Not sanitize. Satanize. I don't know if it's a word in English. In Hebrew, it's a word.
Satan is a noun.
Okay, well, in Hebrew, it's a verb. Most nouns in Hebrew, this is what's so fun about Hebrew, is that most nouns become verbs. They're verbified. Because if you can do it, that's a new word, right? You see, how's that, right? Because, Marty, life is alive. You're not supposed to be static. You're supposed to be dynamic, right? So
AI says that Satan in Hebrew can be
is a verb. Very nice. Good. Okay, so good. So Rashi explains, guys, go back to Rashi. So Rashi says, what are you telling me? Are you agreeing with me or not? Give me the executive summary. Satanize is technically a word, okay, though it's not common according to ChatGPT. Some dictionaries recognize satanize as a verb to make satanic. Oh, that is not the meaning, or to attribute satanic qualities. No, it's rare in modern usage. Most people would say demonize.
Demonize, right?
I say demonize.
Okay.
Or Satan, or satanicize. So they add a C, satanicize, whatever. Anyways, the key word here is the key explanation from ChatGPT is that ChatGPT recognizes as a verb as demonize. Now, we don't recognize a demon. No such thing as a demon, because demons are goyish. Demons are like demons represent something which is opposed to God. As long as you understand that the demon is a holy angel of God, then I'm okay with it, right? To satanize means to prosecute. Remember the three roles of the Satan. There's one to seduce us, next one is to prosecute us, and next is to execute, right? So to seduce, to prosecute, and to execute, right? So the word satanize in Hebrew, shalayastin, means to prosecute. That's what it means. So Rashi explains, what does it mean to confuse the Satan? And this is the key to our understanding of the idiosyncrasies of the Rosh Hashanah experience. The key is that we're trying to prevent him from prosecuting. Why would the prosecution of the Satan be mitigated? Because once he notices, says Rashi, how much the Jews cherish the mitzvahs, his claims will be dulled. Right? So that's the reason that we're learning the Gemara again. Why is it that the Jews blow the shofar standing and the Jews blow the shofar sitting? In other words, why are we blowing the shofar so many times? We do 130 blasts on Rosh Hashanah and multiple different parts of the service standing and sitting. The reason that we do this is in order to weaken his argument, because he will see how passionate we are about the mitzvahs. From here, we can understand what it means to confuse the Satan. Confusing the Satan is not to be understood on a very shallow level, that we're just confusing him as to which day of the week it is. He's a lot smarter than that. The purpose of confusing the Satan means that we are weakening his claims, because he sees how passionate, how much love we have towards the mitzvahs. That is what weakens his case. He shows up in Shul and Rosh Hashanah, and he sees the shuls are full to capacity. SRO, and he's like, whoa, this is out of control, right? Based upon this understanding of the Talmud in Tractate Rosh Hashanah 16a, we're now able to apply it to our questions. The first custom we said was that we blow the shofar for 28 days before Rosh Hashanah. Now we can understand why we do that, in order to confuse the Satan. No, again, not to confuse him with the calendar, which is simplistic, but rather the reason that we blow the shofar in the month of Elul is so that the Satan will see, OMG, the Jews are being inspired. They're not waiting for Rosh Hashanah. They're doing Teshuvah in advance. They're already repenting before the case. What's the purpose of the court case of Rosh Hashanah? In order so they can prosecute us for our sins, right? And therefore bring out an execution order, God forbid. But if he shows up to Rosh Hashanah with a Jewish people that are white as milk, then what's his case? We've already done Teshuvah. How long does it take to do Teshuvah, folks? How long? It takes an instant. To do Teshuvah, you need to have a change of heart. A change of heart specifically means sincere regret over the past and sincere commitment for the future. It could be as simple as a sigh, S-I-G-H. It's an act of true and sincere regret, not showmanship, but authenticity. When you truly regret what's been in the past and you truly commit for the future, that act of sighing is all that defines the Teshuvah. Now, of course, it would help if you added tzedakah, charity, if you added a little fasting, it helps. If you learn Tanya, Geras Teshuvah. It helps if you are in the same situation over again and you behave differently, right? Then that ratifies your sincerity, right? That's great. But the essence of Teshuvah, the core, is merely the change of heart, right? As opposed to being same old. It's exactly opposite of same old. It's the new me. It's turning over a leaf. So when the Satan sees that the Jews are blowing the shofar, and what are you supposed to do while hearing the shofar in Elul? You're supposed to close your eyes, reflect inward, and just stop yapping and just connect the truth and see yourself standing before the King of Kings. See yourself when you hear the shofar. Think of yourself in Rosh Hashanah. Where am I going to be in Rosh Hashanah? And am I going to be facing, God forbid, some catastrophic execution order, God forbid, or am I going to prevent myself from that? Right? And all it's going to take is a change of heart. I need to return to core. This is the reflection, the meditation that we're supposed to be considering during the blowing of the shofar. And now we understand why we're confusing the Satan during the blowing of the shofar for the 28 days of Elul, because when we do so, he sees how we have been inspired to Teshuvah, and therefore he realizes that he's not going to have a case against us when it comes to Rosh Hashanah. And this is also the reason why we stop blowing Rosh Shofar on the day before Rosh Hashanah. Why is it that we stop blowing the shofar? Why is it that we stop blowing the shofar on the day before Rosh Hashanah? You'd think that this would be the day you blow extra, right? It comes to show Israel and the whole world that we are so confident in the teshuvah that we've already done that we don't even need the shofar anymore, right? When the Satan sees how confident we are, they don't even need the shofar anymore. Day before Rosh Hashanah, done, right? We're done. We're ready to roll. It shows them Rosh Hashanah, easy peasy, because we know that we're already done teshuvah. Then that once again weakens his case. Of course, what this does to the Jews is, imagine today's the 16th day of Elul, and you realize that you've got just another 11 or 12 days left to blow the shofar before Not even, you got probably 10 days left to blow the shofar before the day of Rosh Hashanah. So you realize you got to get your act together. You got to pull your socks up, right? Gird your loins and get your act together because there's not much time left. And one of those days, we're not going to blow the shofar anymore. So you realize that it's time. It's time to wake up and smell the coffee, right? And now we understand also, we can apply this to a third custom that we have, which is the no mention of Rosh Chodesh, of the beginning of the new month. Why do we mention Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah? Just like a army goes out to battle, they don't show the enemy every one of their weapons. You know, Israel goes out against Hezbollah. What do they say? They say, we have surprises. That's all they say. I have some surprises for you. Imagine they came out and said, we've got beepers. What would have happened then?
They wouldn't have gotten them.
Yeah, of course.
They're on sale.
You don't want to, you don't want to expose your bullets. You don't put them on the table. You want to let them know. They told, what did they say? They said to Iran too. There's some surprises, right? I think Israel this week made they already made another hint. It's like a game. They made another hint where we're going. They made some sort of a reference to some surprises that's going to happen this week. Yeah, I think that's pretty explicit. I'm talking about. I thought they might be referencing the leaders of Hamas in Qatar. We haven't fought that front yet. Hopefully, yeah, that'll be very interesting.
They said it's safe in Qatar.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully, we get those guys. Anyways, so that's the reason that you don't want to mention Rosh Chodesh, that Rabbi explains, because you don't want to expose all your bullets, right? You don't want to let the Satan know every one of your bullets, and he's always wondering. He's like, 1 second, well, what else they have up their sleeves? I wonder what other merits they've got hidden up their sleeve, and that too is going to weaken his prosecution. The Rebbe asks, but a simple, an obvious question though. The Rebbe asks, but if you're not going to mention Rosh Chodesh, you know what's going to happen? You use it, you don't use it or lose it, right?
You're not blessed in the new month.
Exactly, you're not blessed in the new month, says Mordechai the Jew, right? If you're not blessed in the new month, then you don't have the merit of the new month, right? You've got to verbalize. We've learned something very, very important. This week's Torah portion says when you go up to Jerusalem with the first fruits, we learned this yesterday, you've got to verbalize your affirmation that God took us out of Egypt, then he brought us to the promised land, and he took care of me. He's my God, my personal God. He gave me a piece of land. He gave me a farm, and this is the fruit, right? You can't just say, God knows what I'm feeling. You can't do that. You got to verbalize whatever's on your heart. And you can't say, well, if God thinks I should pray, then God knows what I should pray for, and he should make it happen. No, not happening. God wants to hear from you. He wants you to verbalize your prayer, wants you to have the humility and the wisdom to understand what you need and to ask for it so that he can give it to you, to recognize where it comes from. But if you don't ask for it, you're not going to get it. So if you're not going to pray you're not going to acknowledge the Rosh Chodesh, the head of the month, the Rosh Chodesh Tishrei, then how on earth are we going to have the benefit of that merit? We need every bit of merit we can get on Rosh Hashanah. We're going to say, hey, it's Rosh Chodesh, and we're here, and we're fulfilling the mitzvah of Rosh Chodesh, so we should be using that in our benefit, in support of our argument. If you're not going to mention it, you're not going to have it. You could be pleading a court case, right? You're in court, you're pleading a court case, and if you don't bring your star witness, then you know what's going to happen? You're not going to have your star witness, right? You better bring him up. So what's the answer? The Rebbe says, very interesting. I mean, for just because of to confuse the Satan, I'm not going to bring my star witness. Really? Why would I do that? So the Rebbe says it's actually reverse engineering. Reverse psychology, yeah. Why is it reverse psychology? Because when a Jew realizes that he's not actually mentioning Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah, he realizes, okay, so I'm going to use my other merits. Other merits? What are my other merits? Good question. What are my other merits other than the calendar date right now? I guess I need to make some. And what's going to happen is that's going to make you work harder. Exactly right. When you realize is that I'm not even being gifted the opportunity to throw in Rosh Chodesh into my merit at the beginning of the month, and the fact that we're observing the beginning of the month according to the law of God Almighty, he realizes that he better bolster his homegrown merits besides the ones that are calendar generated in order to do Teshuvah. And this Teshuvah itself, this teshuvah itself, this change of heart itself, the aspiration to increase our merits, in order to confuse the Satan, which means to mitigate his argument when he sees how much we cherish the mitzvahs, how devoted we are to the mitzvahs, how early we're doing our teshuvah in advance of the court case, how well prepared we are that we don't need to blow the shofar the day before, and how we are not even mentioning Rosh Chodesh on Rosh Hashanah in order to increase our own merits. This is the recipe that we need in order to merit what we truly want, which is to be written and sealed for good, for a year that is both sweet as well as good. Yeah, thoughts, questions, comments?
I want to make sure I understand what you said at the very start. That October 7th was the result of not enough Teshuvah or davening Rosh Hashanah before.
I would say that's exactly what I said. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I'm just going to come as a surprise, but I have to take exception to what you just said.
What a surprise.
Why are you taking a negative approach? Whenever we've discussed any tragedies in the past, you always say, "Oh, could have been so much worse."
I say that?
Always.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, perfect example.
I really say that?
Yeah.
Ouch.
When yes,
I
right.
hate to
When-
condone
when
the tragedy.
When Yisrael brought in the person from the gas station because we needed one person to make the minyan, and then that guy winds up in the hospital in a terrible car accident, which maybe he wouldn't have been in had he not come to shul. You said, "No, he's alive. If he wouldn't have come to shul, he would have been dead." Had we not davened enough on that Rosh Hashanah, look how much worse October 7th could have been.
Fair enough. And I agree to that. I agree, because I want to tell you, when you look at October 7th, when you study...
Don't describe it as a negative.
Well, look, I want to say this. When you study the little bit of intelligence that there is on October 7th, it was such a massive intelligence failure.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, just to quote the general that we had here, the Gaza general that we had here on 2 nights ago, he was saying it was such an epic intelligence failure on the behalf of Israel. This was supposed to have been a simultaneous invasion from Jordan and Lebanon and Gaza all at the same time. And God knows where else from, Yemen, Iran. It was all supposed to be simultaneous. And the fact that it was as benign, I'm going to use that word very carefully, but as relatively benign to what it could have been, maybe that was itself a miracle. I don't know. But I do want to acknowledge, Rob, that what we say in our prayers on Rosh Hashanah and Kippur, on this day it is determined who shall live and who shall die, and who by strangulation and who by lapidation. You know, the soldiers, God forbid, that suffocated to death in their tanks, and those that were what?
Lapidation is the act of putting
Drowning.
someone to death by throwing stones at them.
Lapidation. Well, there are those that were,
Don't-
you know, that were run over by cars, those that were killed. By the way, what's a bullet, Rob? Mike, what's being killed by bullets? Is that not lapidation? Same thing. Rocks, bullets, same thing. You're throwing stones.
If you read it, it's also more suffering. It takes more to create a sign.
Lapidation means being killed by rocks.
Mm-hmm.
What cares if it comes out of a bullet of a barrel of a gun, or if it comes out of your hand? It's different.
They don't throw, like they take one big rock and drop it on.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, it's just a
Like
general
they throw
term.
rocks at
My
us.
point is that think about it. Who shall live and who shall die? Oh, that's determined in Rosh Hashanah. And it's up to us to make sure that we're ready for this. This is a very, very serious court case. This is not a day that you say, well, we've already booked the cruise, so we can't change it. And you know what? We'll probably find some sort of a service out there on the cruise. No, this is a very serious stuff. I mean, it's like I tell my kids, right? They don't want to brush their teeth. I say, fine, you don't have to brush your teeth. No worries. Only brush the teeth that you want to keep. So then they slink away and they go brush their teeth, right? Yeah, don't come to Rosh Hashanah, but just, you know, don't come crying when you have some sort of calamity this year, God forbid, you know? So this is really important for us to understand.
But then you can do Teshuvah and fix it.
Well, it's a lot more difficult to do Teshuvah ex post facto when the decree has already been signed and sealed, and now you want to avert the decree. That's going to demand a far deeper prayer. Why would you want to do that? Why do you want to wait until the car accident already happened, and now you're the guy's teetering on life and death, and now you're gonna cry and pray from the depths of your soul? I think it's a lot easier to just show up in the first place in the court case and avert the accident in advance, right? Prudent, exactly. So that's the case, folks. This is the message of Rosh Hashanah. This is not just, it's interesting. All other Jewish holidays celebrate an event of the ancient past. Think about it. Hanukkah, Greeks. Pesach, Egyptians. Teshuvah, Babylonians. Shavuos was Mount Sinai. But think about it, every Jewish holiday. Rosh Hashanah is the celebration of the future. Rosh Hashanah celebrates the birthday of mankind.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
So it is celebrating.
Of course, it's the birthday of mankind. But when you celebrate your birthday, you're not celebrating only the fact that you were born 50 years ago. You're celebrating the fact that I have another year of life ahead. It's the renewal of my energies, right? That's what this is. This is your birthday, folks. This is my birthday. Let's show up and make sure that we give it the best show we can.
This is why 99% of the Jews show up on Rosh Hashanah, not on.
I wish it was 99% of the Jews that showed up on Rosh Hashanah. Yeah, I wish. But hopefully, wherever you are, folks, I want to encourage you, fellow Jews, to turn to God from the depths of your heart right now. Don't wait until Rosh Hashanah. Do it in advance so that you can be inspired and uplifted to be able to be ready for the holy day without any trouble. Come on in, white as milk, not red as scarlet. And that way you'll be assured, all of us will be assured of Shana Tova Matuka. Thank you.
I got a question.